What sort of injury did he have?
He dislocated his shoulder.
How did he manage to do that?
Just one of those things, purely an accident. My husband had been drinking, and he came home about 3 hours late. Danny had scattered some of his school papers all over the room, and my husband grabbed his arm, to pull him away from him. Used too much strength, and he injured Danny's arm.
When I first watched Stanley Kubrick's The Shining as a child, there were plenty of scenes that unnerved me, particularly the bathroom scene in room 237, which is probably the most overtly scary scene in the film, a scene I may do a video on in the future. But I remember, even as a kid who didn't understand, who wasn't aware of the many complexities of the film, who wasn't aware of the film's darker underbelly, I remember being extremely unsettled by Jack and Danny's interaction here. This scene was the first indication to me that The Shining might be more than just a ghost story. One of the biggest reasons why this scene is so impactful is because of its visual and auditory foreshadowing. Only minutes before this, we get this. Wendy and Danny walk through the maze, a mother and her son having a good time, nothing frightening, but we hear.
Oh, isn't it beautiful? Yeah.
Take notice of this specific track, which is called Music for Strings, Percussion, and Celesta. It plays throughout their walk, and it doesn't stop when we cut to Jack, who overlooks the miniature maze. We are then shown miniatures of Wendy and Danny, as Jack envisions his wife and child trapped. Jack poses a threat to his family. The very next scene has Danny pedaling through the hallways of the hotel. Again, nothing exceptionally frightening happening on screen. But then we hear the exact same track we just heard only a minute earlier. How often does that happen in movies, where the exact same musical track is used for back-to-back scenes, especially when the two scenes have seemingly no overt connections? Danny stops to look at room 237, the room Halloran warned him about. There is danger behind the door. But Danny doesn't just immediately take off and leave. Kubrick makes sure to show Danny gripping the doorknob, twisting and pushing, before pedaling off. The music doesn't cut, but actually continues as we dissolve into the next scene, where Jack sits upright in his chair typing, eventually cutting as we witness Jack having a strange, unprovoked, and angry outburst, and is verbally abusive towards Wendy. Jack poses a threat to his family. This means that when Danny asks his mother if he can get a toy from his own room,
Not right now. Daddy's asleep.
I won't make a sound, I promise I'll tiptoe.
All right. But really don't make a sound.
we, the audience, are gripped with an immediate sense of danger. Danny grips and twists the doorknob, pushes the door open, tiptoes inside, and what do we hear? The same track plays for the third and final time in the film, as the track is only prominent in these three scenes. When we hear this, it reminds us, perhaps subconsciously, of what we've seen before. There is nothing immediately frightening on screen, but we recognize the threat before we even see it. Jack sits upright and looks to his right to his loved one. This shot is especially unsettling as Danny stands in between Jack and his reflection within the frame. And if you know The Shining, you know that the mirror is a powerful motif, one that represents the darkness within Jack, the caretaker Jack, if you will. Check out this scene where every time Jack steps in front of a mirror, here, Danny stands in between Jack, the husband and the father, and Jack, the alcoholic abuser. Danny slowly walks to him, nervous, unsure of which Jack he'll get. I mean, the way Danny approaches him and sits with him, does this look like the child of a father who accidentally hurt him? Do you think that an incident like that occurred only once?
On this particular occasion, my husband just used too much strength and he injured Danny's arm. Wendy, I'm never going to touch another drop. And if I do, you can leave me. He hasn't had any alcohol in 5 months.
As long as I live, she'll never let me forget what happened. I did hurt him once, okay? It was an accident. And it was 3 goddamn years ago.
When Danny asks,
You would never hurt Mommy or me, would ya?
he, alongside Wendy, have been gaslit into believing that any abuse towards Danny was simply an accident. This is why Wendy, later in the film, goes from very logically accusing Jack of hurting Danny, as there is no one else in the hotel for the extended period that they've been there, to the next time we see her believing what Danny said about some woman actually being the one to hurt him in room 237 without ever checking herself. She's trying to convince herself that Jack would never hurt their son, to spare herself the pain.
I love you, Danny. I'll never do anything to hurt you. Never.
Oh, and that moment where Danny gets hurt in room 237? It's the very next scene. In this hotel, with no one else around, Jack has all the power in the world. And being stuck in a place in the middle of nowhere with someone like that is scarier than any ghost could ever be. Hey there, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps a lot. And also, let me know what you think is the most unsettling scene in The Shining down in the comments below. Have a good one.